Hi, my name is Bruce Wade. Never before in recent history has there been a greater need for people to belong. 2020 has been a year of huge opportunity, or is it a write-off? When we went into lockdown, we had a choice of either going from our office back home to be isolated and alone and creating a void between us and the rest of the world. Or it gave you the opportunity to get online and connect with a global village. Which one did you take? Where are you? Let me tell you two case studies to share with you that what we did during the last couple of months. Well, firstly, on the 24th of March, we launched the Noon Gun Gathering, MGG, for 43 consecutive days. For 1 hour a day, we were able to connect with people and develop a tribe, resulting in a total of 602 people contact hours during that time. It was launched during lockdown. We had 9 outside speakers come in and share on a regular basis. We had 12 new business ideas that were birthed out of that. 8 sustainable income activities have resulted from this. 3 new masterminds that have gone on and are still running today, and 7 income generation engagements for me. Another case study that we can share with you is during lockdown, once again, we launched the NPO Cloud, a tribal gathering for non-profit and related people. Well, we set ourselves targets and we put it onto Facebook, and we launched a weekly mastermind on Monday and a monthly webinar. And we did what we did. And it was interesting is that by the end of June, we had exceeded our targets that we had set for the end of this year. This graph comes from the Facebook page, just showing you exactly the growth rate that we were able to achieve over the last couple of months. So what has 2020 done for you? We've just gone over the 110 days of lockdown. Our economy is beginning to open up, but then they shut a door here and they open up this door. We're in the peak of infections. And it's interesting, there's a lot of the economics are melting down. Big corporates are retrenching. Big corporates are closing down. They're selling off chunks of what they have. And redundancies and deadwood have been trimmed and pruned left, right, and center. The corporates are losing contact with their staff and their clients, and governments are fast losing connection with the citizens. But where are you with your tribe? Where are you in developing a connection between where you are and where you should be? So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Well, I love to belong. I love the sense of being connected to people, even if I'm not necessarily in the same room. I love the idea of having common purpose and a sense of focus with other people. Now, I'm a natural discovery and a natural creative and a natural strategist. So if you put me in a connection with other people who are able to think tank together, I'm just the bee's knees. But this tribal connection doesn't just come to us. I think it's a taught thing. And we can discuss the nurture-nature thing. But if you go back to when we were little and play groups in grade R, and I remember back to my days in grade R when I belonged to the dolphin class, and we were put together and we had dolphin shirts and we had color blue in our classroom, and next door were the seahorses, and they were green, and they had seahorse shirts and they had different names and they learned different songs. and we clubbed together with us and them, and sometimes we joined together to ridicule the younger starfish guys because they were only 4 years old and we were much older and much more mature. So there was this tribe and separation, even though we were the same. We were different because we wore different shirts. Then, of course, primary school, we had uniforms and we had, colors, and we had a badge and we had a headmaster. And it's interesting, there's all of a sudden the school spirit, we were united as one, and we were different from another school, even though we were the same, because they had a different uniform and a different badge and a different headmaster. And it's interesting is that this tribal belonging is bred into us. We were then separated into different houses to compete against each other with sports. And we learned war cries, and we were told to win for our color. Go Yellows! And I remember even in defeat, we had a war cry, it's okay, it's all right, come on Yellow, fight, fight, fight. So even in defeat, we were united. And the sense of belonging and the sense of tribal thing was so instilled in us that we played different games and we weren't connected to the people who weren't part of us, even though they were the same. And then high school comes and sports becomes even a higher priority, and, playing rugby and cricket on the field. And it was about, ball retention and support your player and score when you can. And we had jerseys with a badge, and we had a captain, and we had a purpose, and we played our hearts out. And it's interesting there that even though we were all the same, we were different because we had a different tribe sense of meaning that was imposed on us. Now, it's not just a recent thing. You go back, way back into history, and you see this tribal development thing that comes around, and people have a sense of belonging with different languages and different locations, and this village would fight against this village just because they were two villages. And they would raid and they would rape and pillage and take their women and take their livestock and kill the men who were a threat because they didn't want different people. And so these little villages clubbed together into towns, and the towns into cities, and cities into countries. And they were united by a flag and a name and a king. And they then had a sense of belonging, and they fought together and they rallied together to protect them against other people, even though they were the same, but yet different because of their flag and their name and their king. In recent times now, since World War II, World War I, is that we've separated, kingdoms have kind of fallen away, and countries were redeveloped and borders were drawn up across Europe, and a lot of countries sought independence, and we had more flags and more names and more kings and leaders and presidents and prime ministers and people to lead us. And we have these imaginary lines that are drawn all around our planet to group together people in a tribe with a flag and a name and a leader that we can associate with. Now, not all flags and leaders and names are worth following, but people still do, because that's where we were born. That's where we belong. That sense of belonging and that sense of achievement is everything. And it's an interesting concept. What makes people want to belong? What makes people not want to be isolated? So how can we bring that together and learn from history and learn from our dolphin class from grade R and put that into a business? How do we establish that into something that is something that we want to belong to? So how do we begin to build a community around your business? How do we build a profitable business? and that make it sustainable? How do we develop these things to do that? Well, is there a secret source? Well, maybe. Maybe there's a secret tribe source. So let me share some of the learnings that I've had with you. So this is taken from a methodology first published in 1965 by another Bruce Tuckman. So 55 years ago, and still relevant today. Okay, I've made some tweaks and that, but Bruce suggested that there were a number of stages that a tribe or a team or a group went through. And we've added a couple and modified that. So the first one that I added onto here is the joining stage, because when people join, people are kind of a little uncertain. You know, you arrive in a room and you don't know who to talk to, and you kind of look around and you're drinking coffee and watching the bubbles in your coffee go round and round, because you're not too sure where you have that common purpose with others. The next stage is the forming. This is where we get to know and like, oh, you've got something in common with me. You're there, you're here. You know, I know someone, or we went to the same school, or even better yet, you belong to a tribe that I belong to. And instantly we have that connection, the old boys society, you know, go yellows, or dolphins, or yay the school, or used to work at the same place. And we look for that commonality, because as soon as we can find something in common with others, we become united in some weird kind of gluey sense of purpose. So we begin to form and get to know each other. But then, as always, because relationships are relationships, we then have this fight for power or leverage over each other, or position. So, you know, if there's 3 positions and 10 people, there's going to be some sort of conflict of, oh, you know, I want to be in charge, and, you know, I want to run the Facebook page, and I want to do the door. I'm in charge of banners, leave that to me. And we have all that sense of understanding a little bit about the storming. And as we struggle for position and we sort that out, eventually we get over ourselves, and we then start the norming, where we accept others for who they are, and we get accepted for who we are, warts and all, strengths and weaknesses. We have that acceptance, and we start rolling up a flag and a name, and now we have chosen our leader. And we then begin to perform. So this is the collaboration for the greater good. This is where people put into a team more than they want to take out. The idea of investment for collaboration, that's a part where you want to get. Now, in the original model, the last stage is adjourning. And I'm going like, why should we disband this thing? It's like, no, we want to change that. And what we want to do is we want to reform this. So we have a reforming. This is an expansion and a defined purpose for the greater good. This is where multiplication and expansion and leverage and diversification happens within a team. Now, those are the 6 different stages of development. Now, I'm going to suggest to you that there are 6 other things that you need to be wary of. These are the 6 requirements for sustainability, because you cannot force people to belong if they do not want to. And you have to have at least 6 of these 6 things. So let's go through them. What are the activities that you need to have? Well, the first thing you need to have is some sort of acceptance criteria. You've got to narrow the gate. You've got to say you can only belong to this tribe if 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're a client of mine, if you attended a meeting, if you pay a substantial amount of money, if you drive a Volkswagen, if you've got an Apple phone, or whatever it is, you can then group those people into a sense of identity. If people see the acceptance criteria that ticks their boxes, then they want to belong, even though they might not fill all the criteria. What you can do is you can have entry-level criteria, and then people can grow up to fully fledged members. Kind of sounds like PSA, doesn't it? Yeah. So that we call the mandate. The next thing is a list of activities. You need roles and you need leaders and groups of things that we do. We need to say, we have weekly meetings, we have monthly meetings, we have this, we have online stuff, we have a Facebook page. These are the things, these are the people you can go to, and you need to define the roles around that. And that we then call the membership criteria. So you need a membership portfolio that you can then put so people know what to do and where they can go and what the rules of engagement are following that. And as we develop these rules of engagement, we have a set of membership and management rules that we're able to do. Now, here's an interesting one: the activities, traditions, and celebrations. Every organization that's worth its salt, that wants tradition, the first thing that you've got to do is you've got to have an activity with a magic word in front of it called annual or monthly. Because as soon as you put the word monthly in front of it, it means your organization is going to last longer than a month because you've got repeated activities. And if you have an annual conference, an annual event, an annual activity, then people know that, hey, this one's got longevity and maybe it's something I can belong to. So as we unpack that and we go further and further and further into something, we have these traditions. You also want to celebrate. You want to celebrate a success of individual members. You want to celebrate leaders, and you want to celebrate certain activities. So you can have, Bruce Wayne Day. All right, highly recommend that. Have a day where you celebrate an activity. And we see why we have public holidays in South Africa. It's the celebration for uniting around a common purpose. Why do we have certain activities like annual convention, midterm convention, AGMs? All these things are created to have the sense of celebration where people can come together to be recognized and to be seen and to celebrate with others. And that then creates this magical thing called memories. And memories is what creates referrals, and memories is what creates noise and conversation clouds and longevity and sustainability. But speaking to people is absolutely key. Regular communication. Now, you can do that in a number of ways. You can have regular communication. There is emails, WhatsApps, SMSs, Facebook pages, newsletters, magazines, videos, vlogs. It can go on and on and on. But what you need to establish is you need to establish a secure, proper way at the right level. You don't want to overspam and you don't want to undertalk people. You've got to put it at the right platform, and you've got to have this information going out to the right people at the right time with the right content. And that then creates that. And it's just interesting. Just think for yourself which newsletters you are subscribed to and how many of them you read. And which ones are the ones that you actually read. Not just save away in a folder somewhere or tag to say one day I'll get back to that. And often I meet people with a one day when I'm not so busy list is sitting in the thousands. Yeah, you know who you are. And it's interesting there. You said you don't want your newsletter part of that. You don't want your stuff to say, okay, so I've got this, and there's certain things that I can't wait for it to arrive in my inbox. And I sit there and everything else just blurs because that is what I'm focusing on, because that's the information that I want. That's where you've got to have it. So we'll call that your magazine. And then lastly is a sense of belonging that creates action. Now, here's an interesting word that a lot of people don't like to use, especially leaders. It's called manipulation. But what it does is the manipulation is not a bad thing. It's manipulation with love and kindness towards a desired goal or purpose. And as we manipulate others, whether it's through leadership or speaking or understanding of where you're going, there's a different sense of what can be created. And as a leader, as a creator of a tribe, you need to have a manipulation path. It could be a sales funnel. It could be a sales pipeline. It could be a progression up a learning platform. It could be towards higher levels of academia achievement or accreditation. But you've got to have a defined manipulation path that people have a sense of gamification and a sense of focus and a sense of purpose that they're on. Not just I arrive and I am just, because people get bored very quickly. But if you say there are 10 levels to the higher level and everybody joins on level 1 with the white belt, and then you get the different belts of karate and judo, and you get the different levels and all the longevity, the sustainable, the long-term clubs have got some form of hierarchy. Not to say that the others are better than them, but it does give a sense of gamification, purpose to that. So there we have mandate, membership, management, memories, magazine, and manipulation. Now you can also do this whole thing, and I'm sure some of you have got mailing lists and you do your MailChimp and the Instagram and all that sort of stuff. And if done alone, you'll find that you might get a blip of activity and you might even book a workshop or two, but mostly these done alone are just a fail. And I want to write those off because it's not part of the core tribe revamp methodology. We'll bring them in and sure they serve a purpose, but they are not the main activity. I've seen too many people talk and teach and try and develop things purely on MailChimp. I've got 2,000 names of people that I might have interacted with somewhere along the line, or that I've bought a list and I've stolen a list and I've added emails on my own, and I've got this list and I just hope and pray that if I send out enough emails, then hopefully maybe something might happen. Well, if that's you, then I'd like to offer you a way out of that. In fact, if you want to create a tribe of your own or redevelop your tribe, give it a bit of a revamp, then I would suggest that you do a couple of things, because maybe 2020 is the time for your tribe revamp. So 2 things that you can do is that you can unpack this on your own, and you can take a copy of that because I've already shown you that. That's the blueprint of the tribe revamp. The other thing that you can do is you can go and buy this book, launched just a couple of weeks ago. And within the book, our very own Morpheus genius, Ian Hutting, has written a whole chapter in this book. And in there, he speaks about team development and some really great thing. And it'll cost you a couple of dollars on Amazon. So you can scan the QR code or just follow the link there and you can buy that. But if you are serious and if you want to develop your tribe, if you want to take your tribe to that next level, and if you want to get to a point where you're going to change the very core and the heart of your business, then I'd like to invite you to come along to our tribe revamp process. Now, this is going to be run over 4 weeks with 2 sessions a week, and it is quite heavy, but what we want to get is we want to take a massive initial action, and we want to develop, and we want to give you tools, tips, and techniques to take your tribe or whatever you have up to the highest level. If you want to be part of this, then scan that QR code. And for a limited time only, we've been able to negotiate the price down from 3,700 Rand to half that of 1,850 Rand, where you can pay on registration. Once that's confirmed, we'll get you on board, we'll get you running, and within the next 4 weeks, you will be your own tribe leader of a sustainable, growing tribe with all the tools and the right things, doing the right things at the right time, with the right people at the right places. and together we will help develop you and your tribe for the future. Hey, my name is Bruce Wade. You can get hold of me at Bruce@EM Solutions, or you can phone or WhatsApp me, and we'd love to have the conversation with you.